I first met Mark in 2015. I was running the Flynn Center, and we had a gallery. And I heard about this guy who I hadn't met, who artists kept talking about. And they said, this is an obsessive collector who's focused on Vermont artists. So I said, okay, I want to meet him because I wanted to do a show from his collection. So the curator and myself, we went down there to one of his buildings, and I felt like I was Alice in Wonderland. I'd say Mark's collection is not only the most important Vermont artist collection, but I would say he's one of the most important collectors in New England.
There are no other collectors like him in Vermont. Plenty of people buy art. Not everybody acquires it at the rate or with the intensity that he does.
There's no one like him.
Well, I mean, I've been trying to explain to people, because people are saying to me, oh, are you an artist? And I say, well, yes and no. I mean, I'm a creative person, but I can't make something from nothing, which to me is what an artist does. But I can take something that's already been created and make it into something more through context.
Mark Waskow was different. Even from an early age, he stood apart from his peers. Driven by a fascination with insects, his obsession quickly led him to the American Museum of Natural History, where he sought expert help to classify a crab he had found on the shores of Pelham Bay. His early experiences at the museum underscored his profound desire to learn and to categorize the world around him. This scientific curiosity wasn't limited to living creatures, it extended to collecting. Starting with coins and bottles, eventually progressing to art glass and World's Fair memorabilia, Mark's passion for collecting grew alongside his scientific pursuits. His academic journey was equally as impressive, attending Cornell University on a full scholarship at the age of 16 and graduating early despite serious health challenges. Transitioning from academia to a successful venture in the insurance industry, Mark's life took a turn when he moved to Vermont. It was here that his collecting took a new direction, towards art. This shift wasn't just a hobby, but a visionary endeavor to transform Vermont into a recognized art destination. Mark's methodical approach to collecting, his engagement with local artists, and his efforts to create a comprehensive archive of Vermont's visual art scene reflect a deep commitment to both arts and his community.
Surprised this isn't up already. This is ridiculous.
I don't think he's trying to fill curatorial niches at all. I don't think he's thinking, oh, I need this in my collection, or this is kind of missing in my collection. Gee, wouldn't it be nice to have one of these from this artist? I think it's this, he says artists are his calling. And so what he's interested in is artists. And so once he meets an artist, he's much more interested in that person and their work. For Mark, is not what's missing. It's what can I add because of you, the artist that interests me.
Compositionally, they're kind of interesting.
They work, yeah.
I don't know why. I like this square on the floor that's floating above the mirrors.
Yes.
So
When I look at work, immediately interpreting and thinking about whether it's conscious or subconscious. I'm thinking about the relationship that it has to other similar and dissimilar things. I'm thinking about what the comment that it might be making, or the comments that it might be making in terms of society or culture, or there's a variety of different thoughts, impressions, and sensations that I'm getting.
How do you, like, when you see a piece and you're like, oh, I need to have that? Like, what is it?
Oh, it talks to me. It talks to me. If I go by a piece, the piece will actually say, "Hey, stupid, stop, pay more attention. You need to consider, like, taking me away from here. Don't you? You want me. You want me." It's like going to the ASPCA and looking at the dogs or the cats. You know, some of them will get your eye and really pull on your heartstrings, and they say to you, like, "Take me home." And I know it's sort of odd to think about art as a pet, as sort of an animate life form, but the art will sometimes speak to me in that way. I mean, obviously, metaphorically, and say, stop, come back, look at me in a different way, look at me this way. And you know you want me, just, like, talk to that person over there and tell them that I'm coming home with you. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know a better way to explain it.
When you walked in the door, you just asked me what I was up to, and I'm just putzing a little bit. I'm making these things. I have this piece that's about time, because time doesn't exist, and it depending on who you talk to. So light doesn't exist, time doesn't exist, sound doesn't exist. All of these things exist only because we are temporal. The problem with asking yourselves questions, you know the answers, and it's only as capable of thoughts that are no bigger than your ego, and my ego is nothing. So I just sort of let go of what you would call a rational thinking process.
Interestingly, by paying such close attention, either intentionally or subliminally, because of just this exposure that I've had intentionally to art over this last 25 years or so, I've actually become much more sensitive and attentive to things that I might not have even noticed before. And it isn't just visual, it's also conversational, it's sensory in general. And so I think I'm a better human being. I think I'm a better friend. I think I'm a better partner. I think I think art has brought out a lot of really positive aspects that, quite frankly, I would not have predicted. I don't think that they're things that one would think were predictive if they hadn't gone through this exercise themselves.
It's not an accident. He goes to every single art show and every opening, and it's just amazing how much he gets around. So he intentionally exposes himself to as much art as he can possibly find. And something catches his eye, and once it does, he wants that thing, but he wants to know more about it. He wants to know more about the artist, and he'll continue to collect that artist.
I mean, everyone responds to stimuli differently, but for me, it's been a tremendous tool for personal self-development.
This is one obsessive man who loves artists. He loves living artists. He loves the relationship to living artists. He really loves going to shows. I've watched him at gallery openings, and he's there looking at the art, engaging with the artists, talking to everybody, and he's often buying stuff right there, or he goes to artist studios. And I think now, if I understand correctly, there are 33,000 pieces of art in his collection. Now that's paintings, sculptures, glass, assemblages. It's just amazing. Notebooks. He has archives by artists. And then he also has a reference library And it was kind of amazing that when I said, so, like, okay, the art's pretty extensive. There are 12 different storage spaces in 5 buildings.
As I began to understand Mark's profound love for art and artists, my journey with him took a deeper turn. Armed with a camera, I followed Mark in his day-to-day activities to help promote his nonprofit, the Northern New England Museum of Contemporary Art, NNEMoCA, as Mark would say. As I captured his interactions and dedication, I also found myself immersed in a vibrant world of art. Questions about the financial aspects of art, what defines good art, and the logistics involved in housing such an extensive collection came up. More pressing, however, was the curiosity about how one initiates a museum. And is it even possible? What became increasingly clear was that NNEMoCA was not just a project or professional endeavor for Mark. It was a personal testament, an extension of his identity. In this confluence of passion and pursuit, Mark and NNEMoCA were, for now, inseparable. This revelation marked the beginning of my own story within this narrative. How does one start a museum of contemporary art? What does it mean to our community? And who are all these underknown artists that are interpreting our world? Unraveling the answers to these questions not only promised to enlighten me about the intricacies of the art world, but also about the visionary mind of Mark. And for me, this is where the story really begins.